In this video today, I want to answer the question, will housing prices crash? I think there's people that are sitting on the sidelines thinking that there's a little bit of a bubble happening, a crash is going to come, prices will go down. And of course, it's in the interest of a lot of us whose livelihoods depend upon this housing market to negate that assumption. And so just recognizing my bias, in answering this question, but I do think there's real hard data to suggest how hard it will be for housing prices to crash. Now, caveat of caveats. I am never going to say it's not possible. There are all manner of things that can crash an economy, and things can happen, and that are outside the scope of our ability to predict. But I think this data here suggests how hard that's going to be for housing prices to really crash, and really kind of the key element here is the supply side of the equation. Values are always a function of supply and demand. And when you have an excess supply, then and demand is weak, then typically you see values go down, right? Because people have to lower their prices to sell. And what we have here is a graph from the National Association of Realtors. And I want to point out a couple of things here. This goes back to 1984. And first of all, you see this dotted line here that's going across there. This represents active listings. And so that's really kind of the supply side, what is available to buy. And this goes, year by year or decade by decade. And so it doesn't, it does show kind of the seasonal differences and the jagged nature of the graph there. But overall, what you see is kind of the overall trends from year to year and from decade to decade. And you see that trend line, that median line there is, generally we see housing inventory, active listings. These are total number of houses that are currently listed for sale, almost at 2.5 million. And so, and then we see kind of leading up, we all know what happened here. We have that big crash, 2007, 2008. But we see what was happening leading up to that, and this is a whole decade leading up to that. We saw inventory going up this whole time. Inventory is climbing rather drastically during this time, and so we see supply side going up during this entire time. And then ever since that time, what we have here is just basically a straight plunge line down. And this is essentially where we are today. We're at historical lows. The mean number of houses available for sale over the course of these decades is almost 2.5 million, 2.5 million. And what we see here is we're down at around 900,000. And so the total number of houses available for sale, and this is all across the United States, everywhere, the aggregate number available for sale all across the United States. And we see this number that is well down into historical low territory. And that's why it's so difficult for housing values to crash, because demand is stabilized. I mean, there are people out there who've been looking for houses for quite some time, and they can't find them because, as many people know, there aren't a lot of houses available for sale in many markets across the United States, and our market certainly. And we see a little bit of ebb and flow there, but we're not breaking anywhere near the historical mean of total housing available. And until such time as we get there, then I think values are going to be supported, even though the economy is struggling a little bit, even though we see interest rates are high. The reason why we're not seeing a commensurate reduction in values of pricing is because people just aren't selling. And so I think that's objective data. I think for people who are looking to buy now, and maybe their main concern is that, what if I buy now and then prices go down significantly? I think there's some data for you there to consider. Like I said, I'm never going to say that can't happen, won't happen. I don't know the future, but I do think this data suggests that housing prices are where they are right now, and they're going to be somewhat stubborn because there are buyers waiting to buy these houses, and there just aren't enough sellers right now.